Yeah. All right, we're back.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and play the, I guess, how do you want to do it? Do you want to play all the bites now?
Yeah, we'll play all the bites now.
And then we'll just do the other in post-editing?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to go ahead and play all the bites for the rest of the week now. I think we've got 3 of them for you. And then, of course, at the end of that, there will be some weird pauses in this for you guys watching on Facebook because we're going to cut the recording a little bit to make it easier for editing. Nothing that you have to think about there. And then if you want the alt fact of the week, you're going to have to get it on iTunes. So, because I don't let my gold just go that easy. I'm not Glenn Beck.
That's right. Buy gold.
Anyway, we'll get into these sound bites real quick. We're going to start the 3-year anniversary of Ferguson and work that into the crime stats.
Ferguson, Missouri is burning.
Hands up!
The reaction to the decision not to charge Officer Darren Wilson was almost immediate violence by some in the crowd that assembled outside the Ferguson Police Department.
You are all unlawfully assembled if you are in the middle of a street.
Police responded with tear gas. Protesters reacted by setting fires.
Now we'll get into.
Soon after the announcement, things here escalated quickly. Behind me, you can see that we've got 2 police cars fully engulfed in flames, and this is all coming as riot police are fully deployed here, ready to tackle whatever these protesters throw at them. Violence was not on the agenda for the Ferguson resident who goes by the name Django.
I pray for the best, you know, because me personally, I'm not going to go destroy nothing. I want it to be a better outcome, you know.
A prevailing concern was that the violence would overshadow efforts to resolve the racial tension Django says exists between Ferguson's residents and its police force.
All right, so here in just a second, we will go ahead and get back into the podcast. Everything's set where it needs to be.
I'm good.
Me too.
3, 2, 1.
All right, now let's get into the rest of the week. The soundbite you just heard was obviously about Ferguson. And the reason that we're gonna jump into that today is for actually a couple of reasons. One, this past Tuesday was the 3-year anniversary of the shooting and death of Michael Brown, obviously sparking the Ferguson riots that we all remember very, very well since we were right down the street from them. So obviously we'll start there, and then Mitch and I have been talking for several weeks about when these 2 arguments about how this is the tension between the police and minority communities of color, that this is all just manufactured. This is manufactured by the media. They're pushing this narrative, and Mitch and I have said it for weeks and weeks and weeks at a time that no, it's not. Like, there are stats there's math that can be done here, and you can figure out who is being treated fairly and if is this really overblown or is there really something here. So we'll start obviously with Ferguson, and then we'll kind of break into that real quick. So we all remember Ferguson. Yeah. It wasn't that long ago. 3 years ago, on a Saturday afternoon, Michael Brown was stopped in the middle of the street at first for jaywalking by Darren Wilson, Ferguson PD, and
it escalated. Darren Wilson shot him, and then there was conflicting reports and different sides saying one, he was charging at him, and then the other witness reports that said he had his hands up.
Right. And
that's where really the controversy and the big argument and conflict came from.
And a lot of people on both sides of the debate, once they've staked their dog in this fight, will only cite one set of data. The fact of the matter is there are autopsies. For anybody that wasn't here and wasn't watching this happen, there are autopsies. The problem here is that there are a lot of conflicting. The doctors that did these autopsies have all come out with there's like 3 different conclusions. So like, yes, his hands were up in the air. No, they weren't up in the air. Right. And then inconclusive. Yeah. And like, that doesn't help the public get anywhere.
Right. Personally, I side against Darren Wilson. I think he was in the wrong.
I
know that I did differ from a lot of Republicans in that because that's apparently what they think. And especially to me, when I looked at the autopsy report, when it came to the image where they have the body and then they show where the impact wounds were.
Right.
Well, you had it, here, here.
You're going to have to explain to the listening audience where here
I'm
and
pointing
here
to where you would basically be if you had your hands up.
Right.
What it looked like.
It definitely seemed
That
like
I said, no, he was charging, and that's why it was like that.
2 shots to the head and 4 down his forearms and his,
where you would
his
think,
biceps, and then a couple in his side, and you would think that to be shot there. Two ways that could happen in my mind. One is that his hands were up in the air, he was facing him. The other is that he was running away and his arms were down.
Right.
But he still had his back turned and he was running away. And there is an argument to be made that if somebody is fleeing, you don't just get to shoot at them.
They're not an immediate threat.
Yeah, and that's pretty decided upon.
They're the opposite of an immediate threat.
Now,
they're an immediate not threat.
Yeah,
they're running away.
To play devil's advocate, I would make the argument that if he's saying he's running so his arms are swinging, you could also say the same if he's running forward.
Yeah, somewhat. I mean, you'd have to be running at a pretty odd angle to bring your arms up.
And
like
that's what they're saying. We charged him,
there were. I remember people being able to source different parts of data that seemed to back up every claim that he was in the right or the wrong.
You had people that were
pretty much immediately. It was the day afterwards.
People defending the cop was like, well, the autopsy proves that it
the real problem with social media is that everyone becomes an expert in a reporter and they think they're gonna crack the story. It cracks me up when they think that they're gonna let the police do their job. That's what they get paid and trained for.
Right.
Now I do think
can you trust the police?
Right. And I do think that when you look at it in this case, I would say there are definite reasons why I can understand why it would be hard to trust the police, and I had trouble in this case.
Yeah.
The handling of the situation from the get-go. After Michael Brown is shot and is laying on the ground, he's laying on the ground for 4 hours in the middle of the street on a hot August day. That's not how you're supposed to handle it.
Yeah. If you do shoot them, you're supposed to handcuff them, and then you call it in immediately, and you say, I need ambulance on scene.
Right.
That's what you're supposed to do.
Darren Wilson also, after the story came out that Darren Wilson had been attacked by him, there was no ambulance call from the police. There's a timeline, and actually, it's in the comment section on this topic. There's a really good USA Today breakdown that I put in there that tells you from call number 1 into the police station. This is minute by minute how Ferguson went down.
Right. And he called additional troops there before they called an ambulance or did anything.
Right. And so I think that obviously that sparks civil unrest.
Well, it's a history too. This isn't the first time police have unanimously gotten off. Almost rarely does police officers get brought up on charges.
If we stay at the beginning, before we even get to the conclusion of it, once the unrest started that Saturday afternoon and then spilled over throughout the weekend and then obviously into a month-long, 2-month-long thing, it was so every step of the way painted it to me.
It was that character assassination that we see.
Yeah, so what you're seeing here is a reason for there to be tension between the police and the community
that
because
really took over the narrative.
Right. It's not, but it's not to me. Those people arguing that this is a manufactured media narrative. No, it's not, because what the police did was the second that people came out and were upset about this, the second that they released, people were asking who was the cop, who was the cop, name the cop. And they did, finally, after 7 or 8 days. And when they did it at the exact same moment that they dropped a video
footage
of him taking some cigars from a store.
Yeah,
which very timed.
Doesn't really bear at all. A petty theft does not come in at all on this charge.
He did look like he was in the wrong.
But it also it wasn't what he was stopped for. He was stopped for jaywalking, correct?
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. Because Darren Wilson, when he pulls up and stops him for jaywalking, or as I like to call it in St. Louis, being black. When Darren Wilson stopped him, he did not know about the thing. So the idea that we're going to release the name of the cop who killed this kid at the same time that we're going to tell you about a crime that wasn't even part of the story from the get-go was completely Trayvon Martin-esque, which is oh, well, he was a black
Fucking
kid. Well,
George
let's look. And they did the same thing with Michael Brown.
Yeah.
They were like, well, I'm sure we can find weed or something on his Facebook.
Yeah.
Look, he was a thug. He was a thug.
And I think why because that video changed everything, and then the narrative was he's a thug. And I think why it was so successful is because it was moments before the confrontation, and it paints him as a violent person because he did do it. He did grab that guy by the neck, and so it makes people go, "Oh, well, look, he's violent all the time."
Right.
And that's not necessarily the case.
Right.
Was that a bad thing? Yes, it was.
Yes, it was.
But doesn't mean she gets killed over
Right.
it.
Did it warrant the
and that he's going to be
response?
violent in every single situation. No, that's not true.
Right.
Yeah.
So obviously that happened, and then of course the missteps, or at least on my side, our side of the argument, the fact that it was a grand jury that decided not to convict, and nothing was ever
Never
done
convict.
nothing was ever done in well. Be careful because Bob Mueller might.
Well, that's fine. Like,
Police officers don't get convicted.
There's a thin
you have
blue
to
line
massively
there.
mess up.
But-
as a police officer. It
Yeah,
seems.
and
In
then
situations where there's no argument whether this guy killed the other guy, like that's not the argument. Then they
Felina
still get off.
Castile is dead.
Yeah.
We watched it live,
Right.
and this
And
guy
he's off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I think the whole closed door meeting thing, and the whole like behind the scenes, and then deciding not to convict, and then only after the fact, after 3 months of closed door behind the scenes, we know this cop's probably going to get off. He then does get off, and then he gets his side of the story, which was like, "Oh, I got beat up, and my
Yeah, it was
son's
terrible.
fine," and like
We called it as it was happening.
that's
Like, he's going to get off.
that's
There's no way he
convenient
isn't.
that 3 months after the fact, you get to tell your story after you're. Like, you never have to testify. You just get to
Right.
tell after it's.
A well-coached story, it seems.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, you take months and months to coach it through.
So.
Which also that weird when the body being left on the pavement for 4 hours. Did that not reek of them like freaking out of like how are we
Yeah.
going to spin this
Well, the
into
first-
something?
They could have done
Well,
anything. They could have scratched him or something.
Well,
They're
if
like,
they
look,
could
it
have
was him,
Baltimore
we did it.
PD'd him, with
Well,
drops,
you
He
remember-
called his
Everybody.
buddies first. He didn't call the ambulance. He didn't follow procedure.
You also remember the arguments that we were having as it was happening live, because we had all of the. At the time, especially here in St. Louis, like we had a lot of police audio. Like we
Yeah.
hear a lot, we knew a lot of the timeline. And the thing as far as that goes, Frank, with the laying on the the body laying on the ground for X amount of hours, the first call that was made after Michael Brown got shot was to seal off the neighborhood with SWAT style tactics. That's not normal.
No.
That, to me, indicates that you did something wrong.
and you realize it's going to be a massive blowout.
Right. Like, the idea that an ambulance... If Darren Wilson was, in fact, attacked, then an ambulance should have been called for himself. If he was... And an ambulance should have been called for Michael Brown, because clearly he's bleeding out here.
Well, I think that it can get a little bit dangerous coming to conclusions based off that, because people can be attacked and not be injured. Someone can be coming at him and he doesn't get hurt, and you say, "Well, you attacked me." Well,
Yeah, but then
broken.
you should still the ambulance
Yeah.
is for the guy you just shot.
Exactly.
Like
So it
regardless.
looks shady, but we still, I think that
Right.
it looks like that.
Yeah, but we
think that's what's
also
happening.
saw how apartheid then played out over 3 months in St. Louis, where
Yeah.
white riot police stood outside of black neighborhoods and told them to go back in their houses.
Right.
That's not America. So and then again, that brings us back to this whole idea that obviously we know the story of Ferguson, and but through that, which really started a lot, like Ferguson was the first really big, like, okay, we're tired of seeing dead black
Right.
kids in the street, and like now Black Lives Matter was born here.
Right. And I think it's important to understand why there's that sentiment. I know a little bit more because I am Mexican. I don't look it, but I am, and I have dealt with cops where, me personally, I don't feel safe when I see them. I want them to go away. I want them to leave me alone. And it's that. Well, why are people thinking that? And it's because they have these experiences. And
Right.
so then the argument was, this is nothing out of the ordinary when it comes to how they responded in Wilson getting off.
Right.
But where is this all coming from? So I've actually got some numbers here that we can go through and show this is where both sides kind of get their thing.
Okay.
So when it comes to social media, you constantly see arguments where you have the people who are pro-cop, and they got their narrative that, well, whites get killed more than blacks. And you usually hear 3 times whites get killed 3 times as much as blacks, so there can't be any racism. And then the other side says, no, well, blacks are getting killed way more than white. So it is racism. So I thought we'd actually go through the actual numbers and see what it is. So let me drink my water here. All right, first I'm just going to give you guys the population breakdown. So the U.S. population as of 2016 is 323.1 million people. Race breakdown is 61.3% whites, obviously the clear majority. Blacks are 13.3%, Hispanics are 17.8%, Asian 5.7%, and 1.3% native. And then there's 0.6% other. So, police shootings which resulted in deaths in 2016 were 963. Of these, there was 465 that were white and 233 that were black. Then 160 Hispanic, 42 other, and 63 unknown. So I actually, for my numbers, I subtract the 63 unknown because I feel like that could go either way.
Right.
So I just want to focus on the white and black aspect of it. So that's 900 deaths that we're accounting for police shootings. Just some fun facts that I thought were interesting. Most were middle-aged, 23 to 40. And then, let's see here, 22 were white. Oh, yeah, 48 of them were unarmed, and 44 had toy weapons. So I thought that was just kind of interesting, that, toy weapons and all that.
Yeah. What if that's police-assisted suicide, people who want to die?
Right. We saw a few of those where it was like little kid, playing with a BB gun.
Yeah,
or something, and then they just, within 3 seconds of showing up, shot him dead. It's like, dude. So let's figure out exactly what percentage by the numbers are killed. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 465, which is the number of whites that were killed, and we're going to divide it by 900, which was the total deaths.
Which is 0.51.
0.51. So if you multiply it by 100, you're going to get about 51.6% of people killed were white. So then we're going to take the number of blacks that were killed, which was 233, and divide that by 900.
Which is 0.25.
Right.
2.26.
Multiply by 100, so about 25%. So whenever people say that more whites are killed than blacks, they are right. It is about 2 times as many whites that are killed by than blacks, at least in 2016, which is the most recent year that we have the data on. But the big thing that they typically miss is that you have to adjust for population.
Right.
There's obviously, 61.3% are white to
versus
13%?
how many are, yeah, that's, over triple.
Right. But, so again, there's a big, obviously, majority of whites than blacks, but how many are getting killed? So then what we're going to do is we're going to take the number of killed divided by the actual population. So let's start with whites. Oh, I'm sorry, no, let's start with blacks. So, where we're at, 233. And we're
Did
gonna,
you just implement affirmative action?
We'll do them first. We're going to take 233 and divide it by the population of blacks in America, which is 42,975,959. And then we're going to multiply that by 100. And we're going to get a tiny little fraction.
0.000055.
Yep. And so, so then we multiply it, we're going to get 0.00054 if I round up. Or we're going to round a little bit. So now we're going to take the population that were killed of whites by the actual white population, which is vastly higher. So we're looking at 465, and we're going to divide that by 198,077,165 people. And then multiply that by 100.
By 100, so we get 0.00023.
Right.
234.
So now what we're going to do is we're going to take the number of blacks population that was killed, which is very small, and then divide that by the population of whites that were killed, which is also very small. So we're going to do 0.00054 divided by 0.00023.
2.34.
Right, so it's a 2.3 to 1 ratio. So by the numbers, you are actually twice as likely to be killed if you are black. This is confirmed, these are the deaths that have happened, than if you were white. So that's where they're coming from. They're saying, look, we are a tiny fraction of the population, 13.8% or 13.3%, and yet we're
suffering the majority
times.
of...
Right. Yeah, and these numbers have actually gotten better since 2015, where the numbers were almost 3 times as likely to be killed if you were black. So there's arguments on both sides, but then you got to get to why did it happen? Is it actual racism that's behind this, or is there more to it? And that's where the kind of unknown happens.
Yeah, that's where the unknown happens.
But that's where the sentiment's coming from. Is this why is this? And it seems like people just aren't willing to look into why it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
They just say, "Oh well, they're obviously they're doing more crime."
Well, there have been studies, and I remember reading one where they would give white and black participants like weapons, and then a target would pop up, and you have to decide as quickly as possible how quickly to shoot them. And they found that whether you were white or black, you were more likely, or you were quicker to pull the trigger on a black suspect because you thought of him as more of a danger. They don't know why. They don't know if this is because the media portrays them as the enemy.
Or if it's just coming from home, or
I
think it's
we don't know.
But there is some
probably
inherent racism.
I do think that's the answer. Like, I think that it's inherent racism, and we've been primed for it. Like, we came over
Racism
here.
does exist.
We came over here 200 years ago, right? Escaping persecution, and then we brought other people over here, and we didn't give them any rights. And then when they got their rights, we got pissed about it. And or maybe not necessarily pissed. I don't think everybody got pissed about it. But what they did was they had to adjust to it. And there are some things that people don't want to adjust to.
Right.
So they're more irked by the new situation. And then you have, because this whole thing with this inherent racism and that topic itself kind of goes to this idea of like, when we talk about it, we talk about white flight a lot, right? Mm-hmm. So somebody could say, well, statistically, when black people take over a neighborhood, the property value goes down in these areas, like
true.
In these because the white people that
don't
left took the money.
They often frame it in a way that suggests that black people are lesser, or that they inherently cause this.
It's basically that you've taken the legs out from under the table, right? And now you're saying, well, why doesn't that table hold this stuff up? Well, you took the legs out from under it.
You want to do it,
right?
So and I totally get that. But again, when it comes to crime statistic, that's another thing that they bring up constantly. Is they say, oh, well, cops are shooting them more because it's in these urban areas, and there's a higher black ratio in that aspect of it, population-wise, and they're doing more crime. And so that's
Here's where I have trouble with it. People that are listening from not the St. Louis area are not going to know where I'm referring to here, but Troy, Missouri, right? I'm about to shit on you, so just be prepared, brace yourselves. Troy, Missouri is basically Methville, right? Like, sorry guys, you have a Walmart and a bunch of needles and shit. Troy has and like it's not that I'm picking on Troy. It's that we've seen statistics.
I'm glad you picked Troy, because my personal belief, and it used to be that poverty caused crime. So I thought that anywhere you're going to go and look and you see poverty, you're going to see crime. That's just regardless of race, regardless of anything. In every nation, that's what you see. And I stuck to that for a really long time. And then I found some new information which goes a little bit step farther, and it says it's relative crime, or relative poverty. So if you have a bunch of poor people that are all poor and they're all in the same place, there's not a lot of crime because they're all in the same boat. But when you start seeing big cities where you have very, very poor next to very, very rich, then you see the crime rates start going up.
It actually kind of makes...
And Troy is a perfect example, because if you go down to Troy, there is a piece of shit little house that's falling apart next to a mansion, next to a trailer. Like, there's no rhyme or reason to that place.
Yeah.
So you probably are going to see crime go up a bit more, because there's just...
But what you don't see is the number of police involved killings.
And then you can look directly into, well, what is the population ratio?
Right.
In this specific... We know what it is now in America, but what is it specifically in these cities? Mm-hmm. And what we tend to see is a very white police force, a very high black population, and then it equals higher deaths.
Right. Yeah. Right. Well, and Troy is a good example where you would see a white police force.
You see a white police force with a high white population,
and less deaths.
Still crime, but less deaths.
Yeah. So
Now again, there is population.
It's just math. I wish I had the soundboard. It's just facts.
Just facts. Now we do also are being a little unfair, because there is a population ratio to it. So if there's one death in Troy and their population is so much lower than the city,
that's absolutely fair.
And we're not doing that right now.
Right.
So.
Yeah. If you're looking at yes, that is a very, very good point.
Right.
It's apples and oranges, because if you're looking at a population of 8 or 9 or  10,000 versus
and I punch you in the face. It's like, oh my god!
But
what is the people getting punched in the face?
What's St. Louis's population? Does it break 1 million?
Oh man, it's populace. I don't know what the actual
Right.
number is. But.
So that's absolutely true.
I think for more people, though, the argument doesn't come down to numbers and statistics. It's more about what you feel is going on. Like you mentioned, not feeling safe with cops.
I don't.
We were talking about jaywalking. I live in the city. I jaywalk in front of a cop the other day. I do it all the time. I've never once been stopped because I look like the ultimate nerd. I don't look like anybody who can get up to trouble.
Right.
And I think they're inherently the cops are taught to trust their gut instinct. I think that goes sometimes the wrong way, where they think. And it's also the media. You watch enough late night crime shows, the bad guy is always these, gangsters. It's always black and Mexican.
Well,
there's a stereotype that the media
and it's perpetuated too by our entertainment. Like if you look at shows like Cops, which is actually a reality show where
so they say
reality / fantasy.
And what people don't realize too on that as a comment on that is that like the majority of cases on Cops get dropped because the cops were like overstepping their bound, which we see on every episode of Cops. Like that guy's a dick. So but it's perpetuated because where does Cops go? Cops only goes into East St. Louis. They only go into East Philadelphia. They only go into the these shitty towns where there is a lot of crime. And I'm not saying that cops shouldn't be in crime-ridden spots. I'm saying that there's a perception because that's what we see.
I'm not big into diversity for diversity's sake. I don't like that argument. This is one where I think it makes absolute sense.
Google.
No diversity of thought. But no, I think this is one where it makes sense because we all have that inherent feeling if we're outnumbered, and so we should have and I think that plays into it. How much it plays into it, I don't know. But if you're a white cop and you're surrounded by a different ethnic race, people do inherently feel more on the defensive. Same with anything. If you go to a place and you don't know the language, what are they saying? Are they talking about me? They do all that stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So the people
paranoiac.
Well, it's a human reaction.
The answer would be more police outreach and
police outreach
where the community knows their police. And then you have to work also on the wealth despair, if that is true, which it does seem to be. That I always thought poverty and crime, but if the disparity is really the problem,
it looks like the numbers.
That's going to have to be addressed because that is going to be a contributing factor.
Yeah. Now I'm a capitalist. So
that is interesting. I like the idea that it's it doesn't matter how poor you are. If everyone's equally poor, you get along. You don't fight.
It's just like, all right, well, that's fine.
Yeah, it is when you see your neighbor can afford a pool and you can't afford
the answer.
Right, and then you keep up with the Joneses and
and then you're going to steal from them.
The answer is redistribution of wealth.
Eat the
Obama. Just distribute. That's fine.
Eat the rich. I've been saying it forever.
99% tax rate. This will work.
But no, I mean, I think that's.
So there's more than one. My point, I guess, is that there's more than one factor that we gotta look at. There's things that we can do immediately to try to help out. I think that the numbers show it's trending in the right way.
It seems like since Ferguson it's gotten better. If that number from 2015, the 3.49 is correct, and it's gotten down to 2.3.
Yeah,
but it is also too.
I guess,
yeah.
I mean, it is. But if they have a national spotlight, I think they're forced to kind of clean up their acts.
When you're looking at
cameras,
exactly.
Keep in mind too, though, when you're looking at 2015 numbers, that is the year after Ferguson happened.
Exactly.
So those numbers are going to be included.
And that's the sentiment that's going on.
The violence. No, but I'm saying that if you're looking at 2000. Because the stats would be from year to year, right? So if you're looking at 14 to 15. Ferguson's going to fall in there, like the actual riots.
It was much higher.
Right. Yeah. So,
That's why...
And do we have these numbers consistently for other years?
So it may be trending, or it may have just been inflated because of the fact that this is what was going on at the time. We'll have to see over the next couple of years where it is trending. And, of course, we're looking at... We're comparing two things here, where we're looking at national numbers, but then we're trying to make the comparison to a single
individual city, and then most of the time in an individual police force.
Right.
And saying, what are their numbers? What are they doing?
Right.
And there was a lot of breakdown about Ferguson, about what percentage of them are minorities versus the percentage of the general population of the town. And it was like 76% white for a predominantly black part of St. Louis.
I think to sum the whole thing up, though, like that.
Cops need more accountability.
Yeah, right.
Someone to police the
police. And I also
let the police police the police.
I just think I just think the whole idea that this is just inflated by a manufactured media narrative it's not true. You can look at the numbers and you can see that, like, yes, you can make an argument that it may be trending the right way. Again, I say wait a few years and let's see where it's really at. But But to say that this is all just made up by the left because they have it's not.
No, there's no reason why people feel this
I would
way.
think it's fair to say, and we can get into this another time because this will go on forever. And we already kind of touched it in the last segment, honestly. But like
we're at 140.
There's a point to be made that like what started here with Black Lives Matter has gone on to overreach. On what their cause is.
I understand where Black Lives Matter came from. I just think that their idea of looting and blocking highways wasn't the best way to go about spreading their message.
I do find it ironic that we have this outbreak in Charlottesville. The week that the 3-year anniversary of Ferguson is taking place, at least clearly isn't going away.
No. Right. But I do think in the same respect, it's not fair to say that, or to have, it's fair to have both thoughts that like Black Lives Matter and some of these some of these liberal fringe groups are overreaching, but your disdain for that overreach shouldn't blind you to and make you think that this is just a manufactured story, because it's not. There's numbers, there's evidence. Right. So I think
the same goes to the liberals saying that all Donald Trump people are Nazis because can't just ignore things.
Well, that's debatable. So I think on that note, though, we'll take just a minute and we'll get back into.
We'll do the bite, right?
Yeah, we'll do the bite and we'll discuss Paul Manafort here in a second. So.
Alrighty.
Oh shit.
All right, guys, stay tuned because we are going to be playing this.
Right. Dude, I thought, do we play both of them or no?
No, we only play one. We're gonna just play them in between.
Is that time to use the bathroom real quick?
Yeah, if you want, just gonna be playing.
Oh yeah, that's fine. I'm not gonna. All right.
FBI agents descended on Paul Manafort's Alexandria, Virginia apartment in an unannounced pre-dawn raid late last month, according to the Washington Post. It unfolded in the early morning hours July 26th, with agents seizing financial and tax records, among other documents. The raid appears to be unusual, since Manafort has repeatedly claimed he is cooperating, and it marks a significant step in Special Counsel Robert Mueller's Russia investigation.
The FBI agents working for Special Counsel Mueller believe that he's hiding, and that they conducted their search in the early morning, as is normal for them, so that the individual whose residence it is has no opportunity to destroy or otherwise tamper with the evidence that they seek.
All right.
All right. So in just a second, we're going to get into an article here about the Manafort FBI raid. Which came about a week and a half ago.
Right.
But before we do that, I'm going to make you wait for me to go to the bathroom now. This is why we usually stop the tape. So
right.
This is Frank's big moment. Hold the show down.
It's not going to happen.
You know how to juggle, right?
My disdain for Facebook.
I just saw stuff just in there. All right, we'll break it here real quick. Stay tuned because we'll be right back.